amidst the political chaos that has taken over the scenes of Nigeria in the last 2 days. Major Hamza Al Mustapha, retired, has come out and granted an interview on air to speak extensively on issues pertaining to election rigging and the problems of Nigeria as it borders issues that concern post-election matters, especially now that a lot of accusations have been alleged and accrued to few political parties and some results rendered inconclusive and irregularities making up the headlines as regards the modus operandi of INEC during the just concluded 2023 general elections. Watch this interview. When we come back, we'll talk more.
Police discovered that no matter the stimulants you take, cola nut, coffee, ink on your right and paper on your left going this way will not stop you from going to sleep. This is how much we have invested in rigging. But they discovered that once you take the ink with a rubber band and tie it on your head, once your hand can come on top of your head to a ballot paper, without stimulants you can't sleep. This is discovery out of illegality on how to cheat ourselves. But then that hurt a lot of other parties at that material time. And people say, when next election comes, I will fight it out and I must emerge. One of the answers I can give you that may shock you is to start by looking at the histories of rigging activities in Nigeria. Rigging brought so many desperados in politics into importing arms and arming their own thugs to fight another party or other thugs across Nigeria. And when it started in the late 70s, nobody checkmated that. And another thing that brought this hopelessness in where people will canvass for, get the support of the people, but at the end of the day, the queuing of people to vote for Mr. A or Party A, at the end of the day will have a contrary result, brought about people becoming desperate to know that we can fight it out. And that's why at any time you have had elections, until this moment, you can quote me, I say, until this moment. And that is one thing I haven't heard Nigerians talked about. You have insurgency, but you never sit down to say, what are the sources of supply of arms into the hinterland and to the wrong hands? What are the sources into the hinterland that is bringing in arms and ammunition that has created so many unknown armories from north to south? And there are too many of them, and it's scary. Today, there is not a single agency in Nigeria that can give you figures as to an estimate of arms in wrong hands or armories across Nigeria that are illegal, meaning that is not government's own. So at every single time there is election or there was election, you see the agencies were used. Now it's time for us to talk about it raw. Let me give 1979. In 1979, unfortunately, police were used to be able to tilt election elsewhere. And then it was in that process, at that material time, now police discovered between late hours and the early hours of the next day, stuffing boxes is a difficult thing to do that has to provide to all the polling stations in rigging. That idea was into people. There was no reorientation. There was no address to the abuses. Cases were taken to court. The aggrieved were not addressed, were not compensated, were not assured. And another election came. The same thing happened. As far back as all the elections we have had, they all have their own histories. I'm not going to talk about that now, but every single election had abuses meted to it. And we have gotten that documented. Most unfortunately. Some today are having direct connection with the current situations in Nigeria. Arms in wrong hands, drugs in wrong hands, armor is kept for them as and when the situation dictates. You go and take arms and fight. You fight fellow Nigerians because of political interests, not national peace. So you have people who are looking for power, but from the money they have stolen, from the abuses meted to the country yesterday, And from the bulgy pockets they have, they now finance people into creating more problems, in promoting more causes of insurgency in Nigeria's stability. Some of us are aware of this, and we have documented a lot of history, a lot of activities in our researches, and we believe we can address it, particularly investing in the younger ones, in reorienting them to now be seen as investments for tomorrow's activities in democracy. And people that I have seen canvassing for power who are only interested in the rhetorics, in the fanfare of the office, and then in the opportunities open for them to make bulgier pockets. We have nothing to do with that. It's unscientific, is very inhuman, is unexpected of any person to support such persons and such a drive under any guise to provide the next leadership. The next leadership should be prepared to be laborers, to be innovative, to go into the dust, to be very practical, to abandon the lofty tower and join the people in making Nigeria be, so that when your institutions comes, when empowerment in the real sense of it, against the tiny little peanuts that goes into the hands of people that has no meaning in today's inflation rating, the tiny little amount being given to people actually is, to me, I look at it as him that smokes. Once you buy the cigarette with your money and then lit it on fire and then smoke, and the smoke goes, neither the smoke nor the cigarette will remain at the end of the day. The cigarette will go away, the cigarette will burn out, the smoke will disappear, and at the end of the day, you are left less, and it's also affecting your health. That's the greed in Nigeria. They steal from you, they invest outside. They steal from you, they tell you lies. They steal from you, they misrepresent you. They steal from you and call you names. They steal from you and see you as animals and give you tiny little things, and when election comes. They steal from you and present themselves as holier than thou. They are making fool out of the society. Such people are not needed. By definition in any law, such person or persons who have such qualities are regarded as enemies of state. These are expectations of leadership at all levels. Anything short of this, be on your feet, kick them out of power. You are not promoting insurgency, I'm not promoting treason, but all I'm saying is what the law is expected of a leader. That's why you see, when they come to campaign, and when you see them frowning at the provisions of the law from the expectations of a leader, and the moment a person or persons frown at what is expected of him to exhibit to the people, then get to know that he is one of such deceits and you never can rely upon. And then Nigerians are either intellectually nonchalant or lazy when it comes to checkmating their rights, from preparation to bringing it into law. We've been to numerous ministries directly and in some cases indirectly using our teams. And this took us some 5 years, now 8 months we are into. We went to numerous parastatals to look at the budget and look at the attitude of the ministry or the parastatal in seeing what they do. There are a lot of waste. And I don't think if this is the attitude that we saw, then Nigeria is just there with budget that is faulty, wrongly executed, with greed being the driving force of many. Only in Nigeria, when you conceive a policy, you equally should be seen to conceive modalities of protecting that policy to come to execution. In other countries where the institutions are standing, all you have to do is just to come up and innovate a policy and set it on, and it will begin to operate for and on behalf of the country and the people. The leadership will do little. But in Nigeria, coming up with the conception alone is not enough. But you have to now be seen to follow through with the protective measures through to the channels of actualization for the people and for the country. In the absence of that, you may have the policy, but it may not take an inch from you. It will fail because there's no driving force from the point of view of having any institution standing.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is still Nation's Voice Star, your most preferred YouTube channel. Yes, you heard it all there from retired Major Hamza Al Mustapha. Major Hamza Al Mustapha was the Chief Security Officer to the late General Sani Abacha, who was the military head of state from 1993 until his sudden death on June 8, 1998. Right? He also, as one of the activities that made him so famous this time around, he has come out and contested for the presidency under the platform of the AA Action Alliance, all right, for the just concluded 2023 presidential elections. Although somewhere along the line he got disqualified by a high court in Abuja, nullifying his candidacy for the party. The reasons being that he was announced and brought forward to the Independent National Electoral Commission by a factional leader of the party, Kenneth Udeze, whom the court really didn't deem fit as to see or accrue the main chairmanship of the party too. Now, on that particular interview, Major Hamza spoke of rigging. He gave detailed reports about the processes that are included in rigging and its history in Nigeria. He also spoke about insurgency and security and high-class insecurity in the northeast and so on and so forth. He spoke about the involvement of the Nigerian police force in rigging elections in Nigeria. He also drafted few points about the insatiable thirst for power by Nigerian politicians amidst political brutality and ethnic bigotry. He also threw more light on the activities involving ownership of arms and ammunition in the country, how they are brought in, smuggled in, and how best the solutions stand in order to stop this chaos from eating up the roots of Nigeria as a country. That is that on that particular update. If you are an incoming subscriber, make sure you always tap the subscribe button. If you are an already existing subscriber, always make sure you share these videos to people in Nigeria and in diaspora. From us, we're drawing the curtain. See you next time.